Firstly, thank you for having us today. And we have a very interesting panel here and talking about one of the most complex challenge what we face today in terms of understanding how the consumer behavior in a non-linear environment. So to start with, if you look at how the whole behavior in terms of audience perspective, right? It have shifted or transformed in last couple of years a lot in terms of multiple devices, because we as a consumer we are on mobile, we are on laptop or desktop or tab, or then today we are talking about connected TV and connected devices as well. So in a complex environment like this, the attention is fragmented or limited in terms of how the user is attentive to certain content. The amount of content which is getting consumed by a user, the average study says that Indian consumer consumes around 4.5 hours of video content on a daily basis across multiple platforms, right? They flip the content between apps kind of thing. And one major shift have happened is in terms of the consumer behavior moved from appointment viewing to convenient viewing, right? I would say around 2 decades back, our parents used to schedule the time that, okay, 7 to 7:30 I want to watch X show on X channel, then I want to watch Sas Bahu at 7:30 on another channel, then I want to watch something else at 8 o'clock, right? But today, no, I want to watch what I want to watch based on when I want to watch and where I want to watch, right? So it's the power is with the consumer. Now, talking about that is where as the more OTTs are coming in, more platforms are coming in, the whole user journey is getting fragmented. A very interesting thing which one of the research company off the record was speaking, that what make the huge challenge today is FOMO. I personally didn't know what it was some months back, in fact, what it is, because I thought it was like something like a CPM or a ROI or ASAP kind of thing. Then later I understood it's not the industry terminology. But what drives these consumption pattern, especially in the new generation, is technically fear of missing out. Like, the other 4 people are using it, I also want to be there. I also want to be seen visible. The generation which is more focused on social status as a priority, the whole consumer behavior changes drastically. So that brings to a very interesting discussion today in terms of how, in terms of the way in such an environment, as a brand custodian or advertiser perspective, what are the key challenges what you guys face, and how you're planning to mitigate this challenge. So that's what the discussion is all about today. And to start with, as we spoke about how the whole ecosystem is. So firstly, I start with Rathin in terms of the finance angle perspective. How are you adapting to those changes as a brand, or in terms of one as a brand perspective, and second thing is in terms of your outreach perspective? How do you look at this as a challenge, or as a area of enablement?
So good morning, everyone. So I handle marketing for SBI General Insurance. We are in the general insurance space, which is everything apart from life insurance is general insurance. So health, motor, travel, property, fire, events like IPL and so on. So we have multiple products and we have multiple customer segments. And I think one of the successes of the SBI Group has been to partner with multiple ecosystems, right? So our objective is to be where the customer is. So, and we work a lot through partnership with brands. So it could be, we have a partnership with, let's say, IDFC Bank. We have partnership with a bulk of regional rural banks who are very different segment. We have partnerships with Policy Bazaar, which is again a very different segment. And to each of these segments, we then run very targeted campaigns to acquire. The other thing with financial services is that, it's a long-term journey. The median age of India is 28. All Indians are in an asset, kind of acquisition phase. They are, going to buy a 2-wheeler, a 4-wheeler, a house, white goods, And a lot of this is funded by lending, which is then again backed in the case of housing and so on in terms of insurance. So the other piece, which is very critical for us, is that once the customer has come in, how do you then, as his income levels move up, are able to upsell the product to him. So he may start out with a 5 lakh health cover, but at 28 or 29 or 30, and maybe for tax reasons. But when he's 35 or he's 40, he's got married, he's got 1 or 2 children, he might need a 20 lakh cover. So one is, how are you then to take that data and upsell to him and then also cross-sell to him? And I think in all of these things, what is important, especially in financial services, is to highlight trust, highlight some of the key deliverables, either your hospital network, your claims ratio. So those are stuff that we market because we realize that our core source of marketing is actually our customer base, and the better NPS scores we have, the better the chances of referral, and that's the virality which kind of goes out.
Thanks, Rathin. No, we have two real estate giants here. So in terms of how, again, in real estate sector, it is very regional focus or geographical focus. So starting with Samarajit, how you look at the same trend?
Good morning, everyone. The sector I'm representing is the real estate sector. I work with Brigade, and as far as acquisitions, which Rathin was mentioning, go, it might be the most thought through, most important purchase decision one makes in their lifetime. And hence, as marketeers, many times you would like to believe that, yes, this is a meta ad which has worked, and that is what has led them to make a purchase. But many times it is deeply ingrained within all of us, that Indian psychology, that ek ghar to hona hi chahiye, roti kapda makan. So it's actually runs far deeper than any kind of a top of the funnel attribute that you might want to lend to them through that entire process. Second part, I think all of us have been speaking about and hearing about the whole evolution of various media. So a customer is no longer happy to kind of just keep following the sales funnel moving down linearly, and they have access to information which can come in from every aspect of their entire ecosystem itself. So be it a friend, be it a meta page, be it a colleague, be it a family member, be it a billboard. So it is increasingly becoming, I would say, difficult to kind of have a very linear attribution. So what is important for everyone, maybe say in this space, would be to clearly define certain KPIs in terms of how would you track the efficacy of your marketing, how would you like to kind of maybe attribute certain ROIs around each of it, what is the intent each of your endeavors is supposed to fulfill. And again, taking a cue from what Rathin mentioned earlier, the entire ecosystem, it's important to understand your ecosystem. He spoke about various platforms. For us also, there is a channel partner ecosystem, there's an existing customer ecosystem, and then there is what you call as the direct marketing ecosystem. So at Brigade, or for that matter, I would believe most of our in this sector, we have started looking at each of these verticals not as maybe competing with each other, but knowing that they complement each other and they feed into each other's efficacy. If I'm doing a great brand advertisement, a great collaboration, it will definitely give a spike in terms of maybe my website hits, of course, but even it gets maybe some kind of chatter going on between the channel partners, between the existing customers and all. So that is one. Second is, again, how well we know our customer is actually defines where or how effectively we could actually put out. So there's a lot of maybe attention which is required across sectors in trying to get a very deep, well-rounded understanding of what has led to that purchase decision, which should earmark your next strategies. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, so I think Smarajit pretty much set the context in terms of the crux of this whole thing is that in the real estate and for many high value purchases, it's often the only one time that the customer makes that decision. or at least when the first time the purchase happens, it's like for the customer, it is pretty much they are thinking that this is the only time I will buy. So there is a very deep thought, etc. going in. What I feel is that there are 2-3 things happening. I mean, I think as a marketeer, especially for a category like a home, or one of my earlier categories, if you take something like an auto, where you are, let's say, a motorcycle, the trigger is sometimes well before the marketing funnel, or what we consider the marketing funnel. Somebody might have seen somebody ride a bike as a youngster, as a child, and they said that one day I will buy this bike, or somebody may have as a young professional, they have seen a very aspirational home, and they have said, you know what, one day I will buy a flat or a villa or whatever in this locality or of this brand. So we need to be clear that sometimes the trigger is well before the marketing funnel, or where we feel the customer is approaching the marketing funnel. So therefore the point of brand building comes, that point of great customer service comes, point of a great product comes, which are theoretically outside the purview of marketing or advertising. But at least for these high value products, or for that matter, let's say a claim ratio is a very important thing, that somebody will make a decision and file it because they have seen some relative have a very good experience with a financial, let's say an insurance product or something. So therefore, that's one part. So that need of creating the brand well before the funnel starts. The second thing that we were talking about, this non-linear funnel, that we always see the funnel from the face up, where it is a very neat triangle, there is top, middle. But if I look it from the top, it is actually a spiral. And that spiral keeps going up and down, especially for home. When a person decides to buy a home, they have the best possible home in their mind. They think that, oh, I'll buy a 4 BHK villa in a very close to, let's say, my workplace. But when they start evaluating, they sometimes realize that maybe that area is not good enough, or my budget is not big enough, or villa has several problems. I mean, we have had many situations where the person says that, yes, I can afford a villa, but you know what? I do not want to get into that maintenance thing. So it's a spiral. So people start that whole awareness, interest thing, and then they go back. They relearn, they recalibrate their requirements and go back, and starts from, in our point of view, let's say from square one, but in their point of view, they have gone several times. So therefore, how well I manage that balance of giving him or her fresh information, new information, so that the funnel is not a linear thing, it's a circular thing, and often overlapping, often repeating. So if we are by and large keep these 2-3 things clear, that the customer has started his or her journey well before we have started our marketing, and secondly, the customer will keep coming back, come, watch, buy, not buy, come back again, evaluate it again. Sometimes there is a trigger of let's say somebody tells you, oh, this area will give you great appreciation if you invest just now. So there is a whole rush towards that area, and then after 3 months you realize ki, hey, this is not as good as I thought. So people stop that search, and then they maybe come back 8-9 months later, maybe to a different area, maybe to a same area. So therefore it is important that as a marketer, when the customer is actually actively trying to shut out communication, people don't want to see advertising. Even more, as the more and more Gen Z and the younger Gen Alphas come into the fold, it is going to become even stronger. So it is important that we give them things that they value, as opposed to what we want to tell them. If we can create that non-linear funnel with that point, that you are coming here for value, and over a period of time you will trust me, and when the time is right to cut a check, you will give it to, it will be in my name. I think that's the larger point that marketers need to address.
Okay, thanks, Deep. Sridhar, so let's go deep dive a bit more into non-linearity funnel perspective. So the whole, as everyone mentioned about the funnel in terms of new age and old age perspective. So you still think that there is a role for old age funnel to play a role, role in today's marketing mix as being a platform?
Yeah, I think definitely yes, but I think we look at it from a slightly different perspective. And in fact, personally, I believe in the concept of a cycle or a flywheel rather than a funnel, right? Because I think the importance of nurturing that relationship with the customer, long after they have bought that service or product from you, I think that's sometimes I feel is underestimated, right? I understand in the real estate case, maybe they may be buying that only one property in their entire lifetime, but that doesn't mean that the relationship with them should not continue, right? I'm sure, as you also mentioned or alluded to, there is going to be a lot of benefits in terms of word of mouth and a lot of other things that the company can benefit from. So I really look at the customer relationship more as a flywheel rather than a funnel where things just get dropped out at a certain point in time, right? Yes, customers, and I come from a retail background, and this whole behavior of non-linear shopping has been around for quite some time, ever since the advent of digital platforms, right from the point where they start looking for a solution to their problem. They become aware of a product or service that exists that could potentially solve the problem, and then they research, they shortlist, they compare, read reviews. All of that is done, and then ultimately before they decide to buy something, and then once the transaction happens and long after that purchase has been made, there is this whole aspect of after sales service in some cases, or the advocacy part kicks in. So I feel that that is a virtuous cycle, and I think brands need to recognize that entire spectrum, and do whatever they can to ensure that they are relevant to those consumers in every part of that journey, is what I feel. And thankfully, I think technology is advanced so much that for every touch point and every interaction that you have, there are tools to capture at least those signals in some sense, right? It might not be very clear at the beginning, but as and when you continue to track that customer's journey through that spectrum or that cycle that I talked about, then a lot of clarity emerges in terms of what the customer is trying to do. Are they serious? Are they not serious? Are they just looking? Like Deepta also alluded to, right? I think all of these signals are captured in some fashion in the touch points and the what I would like to call as digital breadcrumbs that they leave behind, right? They go and look at a particular website, they download a brochure, or watch a video. All of these are signals of their intent in some fashion, and you'll have to be consistently looking at those parameters and that data. And as I said, I think technology is there for us to really make sense out of it, and then you design your campaigns and offers and promotions based on that answer. And again, I don't want to get into a lot of the tech stuff. In fact, we have a booth outside just near the registration desk. We'll be more than happy to talk to you about. And that is what we do. In fact, love to call out the fact that SMARAJIT and Brigade, they are big supporters of Salesforce. They run on our platform for many use cases within their company. And in fact, we have fantastic set of customers we are very proud to be associated with. And I think in all of them, we are solving very similar problems. But of course, they're very unique to their company and their industry. But at the end of the day, it's about how do you start from a sort of an anonymous person looking for something, then how do you ultimately convert them into a very loyal customer? So that's what
I think that also, I mean, thanks, Sridhar. Now, as we spoke about the old funnel, new funnel, transformation, etc. So one of the key thing which existed in, is like peer and community. How that, as well as a decade and a half back, gratification used to be one of the big thing. I remember because last week when I met Athi at Unio, we used to work decade and a half back for Surf Excel, then wherein a 10 rupee talk time free when you buy a packet of Surf used to play a significant role in terms of the sales. It's a small gratification people used to value because your talk time was very costly. So getting a 10 rupee talk time where to that class was a significant milestone to achieve. So today, are the consumer still running behind certain kind of gratification? If so, what is that? What enable or excite them to be associated with the brand? So, what are your thoughts on one is peer community as well as on the gratification?
Since we are Sridhar's customers, maybe he can speak about how he's gratifying his customers to start with.
So, Sridhar, you want to start with?
No, go ahead.
No, that was just on a lighter note. On the gratification part, it's actually a combination of maybe in terms of the product or be it a service, because many a times, at least in the high involvement segment, yes, people would like to believe that they are getting a good value for their hard-earned money, their investments, especially considering it is a 20 to 30 year kind of a horizon that you are investing for. And at the same point of time, it's how about the entire experience of that whole transaction has been, which I would say is more of a delta in terms of what could possibly swing it in your way is if your team is better trained, if all of your touch points work that much more seamlessly, if there is a certain there is a certain transparency in the entire booking process. So all of those have actually, I would say, been the major differentiators. Of course, people do look at, okay, if I'm making a purchase of an X value, maybe there is some kind of an opportunity that I would also like to buy into, be it better a selection of inventory, be it a better, a deal sweetener. But I would still focus that it is swinging more on the experience part of it, at least in the high involvement category, more than just the specifics of the value itself. Over to you, Rathin.
Yeah. So I would say that the principles of marketing have actually remained the same. There are lots of tools, techniques, individual platforms which have come up which capture certain elements or some parts of the journey. But I think the core job of a marketer fundamentally remains to create organic demand, right? Because whatever mega platform you use, whether it's Meta, whether it's Google, whether it's others, typically you will not be making a profit on the first transaction. That's the way the platforms, they have category level data, and that's how they kind of fit the prices, right? So especially if you're operating in low frequency categories, then you need to be there, you need to have visibility, you need to have presence and so on. But the job remains organic demand. To get organic demand, you need to have a deep insight as to what are the 2-3 essential things that a customer is looking for in your category, right? Now, across everything, I think as Indians, more than price, value is something that we all kind of look for. So that's where you are talking about this deal sweetener and so on. And they are used in multiple ways to kind of, in some sense, close the deal, right? But value is a core component of every category. But value is not the reason why you get into the category. Now, so for us in insurance, trust is a very important product, because you're buying a health insurance when you're 30, 32, 33 years old. Chances are you will use the product only when you're 60 years old, right? So are you sure that the company is going to be around? What's the hospital network? What's the claim ratio? How easy is it to kind of lodge a claim, renew your policy, all of that stuff? Those things become very important. And then in certain categories, people look at referrals. Now, in financial services, you would look at your friends, your relatives, your family, and so on. Because you see in the average Indian age is, let's say, 28 years, as I say, most people in Bangalore, if you take Bangalore, everybody's an outsider, right? People have come from all over the place. And the fact that you're spending so much time on your own mobile and social and so on, you're looking at influencers and other people for recommendation. So those become a way of kind of getting into the funnel, as opposed to just awareness and so on. You mentioned FOMO. In certain categories, the fact that I've got a new latest pair of sneakers, the latest pair of any other fashion brand, to buy that product and show it itself has got value. So I think there are lots of elements. To me, the core remains that the job of the marketer is to create organic demand. To create that organic demand, you need to understand what are the key levers or what are the key insights the customer has, and then find out how your product and your whole product mix and the marketing mix delivers that, right? And then you kind of leverage as many distribution systems in India as possible, because India is a huge country, right? And there are micro opportunities in everything everywhere. And for us, like I said, leveraging ecosystems is a good way of penetrating those customer segments with localized content, with localized messaging. Those things become kind of important.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think both of them pretty much covered everything. As far as I think the deal sweetener, just to add on, the deal sweetener, especially in a infrequent purchase category, is an intangible about the product or the category. So for a home, you may try to buy a home and you may be disappointed that you are not getting a price or you are not getting a discount or something, and you may step back at that point in time. But the deal sweetener happens when somebody said that area has appreciated a lot. You may realize that this builder's reputation has grown a lot.
Or future prospect area perspective.
Of the future prospects. So then the deal sweetener comes from the macro environment and not from the the company per se. Whereas when you are buying, let's say, a soap or a chocolate or a chip packet, I mean, you did not get a deal last month, you will get a deal this month, you will shift and all that happens. But let's say when you are buying an automobile, when you are buying let's say an education product, when you are buying a home, then I don't think it is about only the price or the deal sweetener, but it is so many other things that you may hear that this builder over time has become a much more, is giving much more better service, or their home quality is of a certain standard. So that becomes a deal sweetener as opposed to the price.
And Sridhar, as marketer says that still remains, the fundamental remains the same. As a new age platform perspective, how do you enable and support the brands to deliver these KPIs?
Sure. Yeah. See, I think again, from our perspective, like I was saying even in my earlier response, we have a comprehensive suite of tools and solutions that cater to pretty much every industry that is trying to generate demand, like I think Rathin said, right? And that starts from really being able to build awareness about your brand and service, right? So we have tools to do that. We work with pretty much all the major platforms that brands should go to in terms of advertising, whether it's Meta, Google, or any of those others as well. And we have native connectors that help you to deliver those campaigns on those platforms a lot more effectively. And then the part about capturing the responses from the people that you are sending the campaigns to is the second part of it, for which again we have tools. Once you are collecting that information back, we have also something called as a data cloud, which is nothing but a data repository of collecting all of those breadcrumbs that I alluded to earlier on, right? So every single interaction, every single click, every single download of the brochure, or every single view of a particular page, all of that information, like I said, is giving you those insights into that potential interest of that person, and that is also something that we have the ability to collect, right? So what you're trying to do now is you're trying to build from almost an anonymous kind of a person a slightly more enhanced profile, and that profile can keep getting enriched with every touch point and every interaction, right? So slowly a picture of that customer starts emerging. You have a lot more clarity on who are the people who are intending to buy, who are there just to sort of maybe do a casual browsing or what have you, right? Once you have that information, then we have the ability to segment those informations, right? And like everybody has already said, you need to be really targeted in terms of whom you want to send those campaigns to, because a one size fits all is not going to really work in today's world, especially, right? You're already interrupting a person's day or schedule, so it really better be personalized to them to a large extent. And I think that's the basic table stakes that everybody has to follow. Otherwise it is just clutter and spam, and you're going to lose out the relevance from a consumer standpoint. So we help you to do that as well, right? Deep segmentation. And we have many customers in India, especially in financial services, where we are able to process millions of rows of customer profiles and get down to very micro segments, and then enable campaigns based on that, which obviously means that as a customer I'm receiving something that's a lot more relevant and personalized to me. And the benefit for the brand, of course, is that they are able to maximize the ROI, because you're not carpet bombing or sending these campaigns to everybody in your database, but rather the few who you think has a high propensity or a probability of showing interest, right? So I think it works both ways. And once those campaigns are sent, we have this omni-channel ability, meaning that all of these campaigns are, of course, are all sent on digital platforms, but ultimately the transaction is going to happen probably in a physical world, right? It's real estate or a retail store. But then how do you recognize that this is a result of that campaign? So the attribution part is again very important, right? In today's world, there are so many channels where you're spending money on marketing, but ultimately you have to make sense of what are those campaigns and what are those channels that really yielded results, and that again is getting more and more complex, right? So at the end of it, the common thing I would say is really invest in a robust data platform that has the ability to collect all these touch points and interactions, and then once you have that, have the ability to segment and execute campaigns, which again can be measured and monitored.
Got it. So as we're getting to the final leg to conclude that within a minute, Gartner report says that average 60 to 70% of the buyers conclude their sale even before reaching or getting a touch point with the sales person, right? In today's world, because you have access to everything and anything in terms of research and consumption perspective. So and as Sridhar mentioned about the attribution, so in a complex environment like today, how multi-touch attribution, I'll just make it very short, just a one word answer perspective from everyone in terms of how you think this whole attribution will be sorted, as a brand perspective and as a platform perspective. Yeah, Samajit, you start from.
See, I think there are
Just make it very short.
two perspectives. One is let's say the input perspective, that I am doing so many things, so there are multiple touch points are they doing. So that's like the input perspective. But from an output perspective, I think we need to reduce it and keep it at very little. Saying, is the person going to the store? Is the person buying? Now everything else that you said, that cultural, social significance, he has decided, he has already done homework, so come to kind of justify that purchase, are happening somewhere in between. But when you put a macro amount, when you do a campaign, is your last two increasing? And within the campaign, there are various medium, there are various channels. So you need to see that whether those have improved. But this is for an internal marketing perspective. I think the business is interested in just one or two very major perspectives. So we have to be clear as marketer that what are we doing and whether there are results, and the later part that whether it is yielding result for the company.
Got it. Thank you. Rathin?
So I would say one is every consumer looks at 2-3 brands as alternatives before deciding. So one is, how do you use tools to track the strength of your brand across everything from awareness to recommendation to purchase intention and so on, and see how that is getting stronger in age groups, segments, markets, etc. So that's one. Second is that I think what Sridhar spoke about is have a unified data platform which is able to at least track to whatever extent, and you keep building on that and growing on that as time grows, so that you're able to make sense of all these disparate uses of data. These are the 2 points I would say.
I agree with my co-panelists here. There are largely 2 points here. One is to build a strong, like we've invested into a full-fledged CDP, which allows us to track the user journey through the entire life cycle. And the second critical aspect to make it work is to have a team which understands data, which can translate into all of these information into actionable insights. Because that is where I feel a lot of times, because there are brilliant tools off the shelf, some customizable, but many times the teams are honestly grappling with how do I kind of actually interpret it and make it, flow back to my marketing funnels and all. So if we have covered on those 2 aspects, the customer journey will become that much more intuitive, hence leading to better conversions.
Thank you. And I think that's what enabled by Salesforce.
Yeah, I mean, rather than again going into a tech kind of a thing, I mean, this reminds me of a very famous quote that I feel is very timeless, right? This is made by Seth Godin, who's a world-renowned, marketer, and he's really a brilliant guy, right? For those of you who know him, and one of the quotes that he is very famously known for is, what he said is, persistent, consistent, and frequent stories that are delivered to an aligned audience will earn you attention, trust, and action, right? It's really as simple as that, right? I mean, the whole universe of marketing can be summed up in this one sentence that he has said. And I think that's what we've all, alluded to in various shapes and forms.
Yeah.
Is that, and I think the tools are there to do all of that, but you just have to show that intent and be relevant to your customers in every part of it.
Absolutely. And your counter is there outside, so if you don't have any queries, please come over to. I think that takes us to the conclusion. Thank you for all your point of view, and I think that gives a clarity in terms of where things are moving and how we should adapt to these changes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tanvis.